Welcome everyone to Latter Daily Digest. Today we're talking with Stephen Murphy of Mormonism with the Murph, and let's see. Let's start with a little bit of background.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Murphy. As you said, I'm 27 and I'm from Northern Ireland. So I was born and raised in the church, grew up in the church. I had a testimony and felt like I had spiritual experiences in my youth. Served a mission, went to Alberta, Canada. And my story in a nutshell is after I came home from a mission, I went through a faith crisis. I had a sister who left the church. So I started learning about different criticisms, difficult topics in church history, what critics were saying about the church's truth claims. I went through a faith crisis. I lost my faith. I stepped away from church for a little while, and then I had experiences and things that brought me back, mainly spiritual experiences. And that process has been navigating and figuring out my faith and, wrestling with criticisms and doubts and trying to reconcile the intellectual and the spiritual.
That's right. So what led up to you starting a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I started the channel. It was around July of last year. I think there was a few factors. One is I had friends and family members who were leaving the church and were bringing up a lot of the same criticisms and doubts and concerns that I had in my own faith crisis, and still things I was wrestling with. I was continuing to listen to critical podcasts. I remember around that time the LDS discussion series had started, and as I was rewatching it, there wasn't a whole lot that was new, but I thought it was just very well researched and a good synthesis of arguments, criticism, and evidence against the church and its truth claims. And so it was kind of a combination of those things that motivated me to want to start a YouTube channel, and also wanting to try my best to explore the criticisms and try to be fair and balanced as I do it.
Right. That's one thing I remember watching your first videos, and I don't know if I was subscriber number 52 or whatever, but I thought you did a really great job, explaining dispassionately both sides and just laying it out there for people to, listen. And how many episodes did you do where it was just you talking before you invited a guest on?
So I did a series on the first vision, and I did one on seer stones, folk magic, treasure digging, a little bit on the Book of Mormon translation. And I think that was probably in total maybe like 10 to 15 episodes that I did myself. So I researched, I made slides, and then I sort of recorded myself talking about it. So I think my first interview, it was either with Robert Boylan, or I know I did Brian Hales on polygamy and Dan Bogle a couple of months in.
Did you notice anything different about interviewing somebody as far as like more people viewing those or anything like that? I mean, you are bringing on people, big name people. So instead of just little Stephen Murphy talking about Mormonism, all of a sudden, if you have Dan Vogel on, it's going to attract a lot of interest.
Yeah, definitely. Having a big name on like Dan Vogel or Brian Hales definitely attracted more views. Because who wants to listen to this random Northern Irish guy talking about, different church history topics? What do I know? I'm not a scholar, right? So definitely interviewing different historians or scholars or apologists on a topic attracted more people to watch. And I think it's also caused people to want to, listen and follow more.
Do you remember milestones like getting your 100th subscriber or having, whatever things happen that make you feel good? Do you remember those experiences?
Yeah, I don't remember exact dates. I think it was about 2 months in. I hit 100 subscribers, and over I was very happy. I can remember hitting the 500 subscribers mark. I think it was around this time last year. And then I hit the 1,000 right before my birthday. I remember that was a goal of mine. So my birthday was back at the beginning of March, and I think it was like a few days before I hit the 1,000. So I was happy about that. And I'm close to hitting 3,000. So I'm nearly at another milestone.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, what a good birthday present.
Yeah, I was very happy. We celebrated.
That's right. And so Does anything different happen when you have 1,000 subscribers?
Well, you get monetized, so that's one good thing. So you can start getting some money in from YouTube ads.
So people get ads no matter how many subscribers you have, but you finally get money once you have 1,000 subscribers in
I
it.
think so. I think that's how it works.
Now, my son was telling me that people that sign up for the premium YouTube, that they divide that money up between all the podcasters.
Oh,
Does it say like here's the amount that's from YouTube Premium and here's the amount that's from the advertising? Do they break it
yeah.
down?
If you go into your analytics and you check your earning or your revenue, you can sort of see how much is from YouTube ads, YouTube Premium, any sort of like super chat donations. You can see the breakdown.
Are you starting to do the math to figure out how many subscribers you need before you could, retire from your job or just do podcasting only?
Yeah, I think the math will be very high, so I'm quite a long way off. And I think for me, I've enjoyed doing it kind of as a hobby. It has been quite time consuming, particularly as I try to do a lot of research whenever I do an episode. So creating slides, researching a topic, and then filming, editing, uploading, making thumbnails. All of it takes a bit of time, but I've enjoyed doing it as kind of like a hobby on the side. But I've still had to work full time to provide for myself and pay bills and such.
It's way far in the horizon for quitting your day job, right?
Yeah, way far on the horizon. And for me, I think I also enjoy having sort of like my own sort of I like working. I like what I do, and I think I'm not sure how much I would enjoy if it was what I did full time. I think I enjoy it being more of a part time on the side thing, but you never know. We'll see what
Right.
the
It's
future.
like a diversion that you're interested in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like just jogging would be kind of boring.
Well, yeah, I worry that if it was all I did full time, I wouldn't love it as much. If that made sense, it would become a job. So I think it's something that I look forward doing, in my free time, in my spare time.
Sure. Let's see. What is your most popular interviews or um, shows?
In terms of views, I did an interview with Dan Peterson, who's quite a well-known, famous, or infamous scholar or apologist, depending on how you view him. I did an interview with him because I did a big series on the Book of Mormon, so I've talked to lots of different scholars. So I don't know why in particular that video got way more views than the other. Sometimes just depends with the algorithm and how many people are watching, early on. But yeah, it got a lot of views, and we talked about evidence for the Book of Mormon in part one, and then part two, we talked about criticisms against the Book of Mormon, some of the naturalistic explanations. And we did like a rapid fire at the end where I was just asking a bunch of different questions or criticisms or people my listeners had for him. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite interviews. It was nice to get to know Dan more of a personal level. And even though returning to the church as a believing member, I still had like this prejudice against him a little bit from just my time away from the church. And I think it was really good for me to get to know him, and he was more personable and yeah, just a very kind person. I thought we had a really good discussion.
Once you get a lot of views from a show like that, do you notice a lot more people going to start like with episode number 1 and 2 and 3? And so it
Um,
picks up the views of those shows?
Possibly. I know after the one with Dan Peterson, I did a similar interview with Stephen Smoot. We did like a part one, part two on evidence and criticisms. I noticed that video got a lot more views. And I think some of the previous interviews I'd done on the Book of Mormon with people like either like Blake Ostler or Brent Gardner, I think some of those videos might have picked up on views as well. So yeah, like sometimes if you have a video that does really well, you get a lot of views and new subscribers that can cause interest for them to check out some of your earlier videos.
Right. Um, let's see. Once I was going to wonder about like what's your favorite other than the series with Dan?
Oh, it's so tough because I feel like I've had so many amazing interviews with different guests, historians, scholars, critics, or people about their faith journeys. So there's not one that stands out. If I were to, could I give you like maybe like some of my top 5?
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
do that instead. That's a bit of a cop out. I really enjoyed. It was one of my first interviews was with Brian Hales on polygamy, and obviously Brian is, an apologist or he's a faithful believer. But I thought we did a very thorough discussion interview on polygamy. Asked him a lot of the tough questions, and obviously came from more of a faithful interpretation. But I even got a lot of praise from even some ex-Mormons, and they said like really appreciated the interview you had with him. And Brian even said to me after it was one of the probably most thorough, comprehensive interview he's had on polygamy. I really enjoyed some of the episodes I've done with Dan Vogel, who's more of a critic, great historian. We've done different topics.
Yeah, Dan Vogel has a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, and very nice. I have a lot of respect for him. He knows the documents and the history very well. And while I may not come to the same conclusion, I want to hear his perspective. And I think especially the ones we done, the witnesses of the gold plates in the Book of Mormon, really enjoyed those episodes. I really enjoyed the interview I did with Stephen Harper on the First Vision. I thought it was a valuable interview, talking about each of the accounts and then criticisms and getting his response. I love the series I did with Jim Bennett responding to the CS letter, because I wasn't the biggest fan of his CS letter response because I read through it before the interview. And
there's some snarky.
Yeah, snarky. That's sort of the perfect word for it. But I really loved my interview with Jim. He's just very real, very down to earth. I just felt like, he was giving his take, responding to a lot of criticisms and issues, and I could talk to him all day. And I love that he gave so much time, and just the different people, scholars I mentioned before on the Book of Mormon. I've loved some of those episodes as well. So yeah, it's hard to pick one because I feel like I've been privileged to have so many amazing interviews with people.
I got to meet Jim Bennett at this last Sunstone, and he's a really nice guy. He's also a really big man.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
tall.
I've not met him in person, but I remember I saw a picture of him, I think with like Anthony Miller, and Anthony was like a wee shrimp and he was so big. So I didn't realize how tall he was. But yeah, he's great. He actually served his mission in Scotland. So we were talking about that because that's not too far from me. But I really like him.
He has a show, and I'm hoping to get him on. Is it called Inside Out?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, he's doing it with a friend because his friend has left the church, but Jim's still in. Yeah, that's really good. He'd be great to have on.
And I think they serve together, right?
Missions. Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so can't wait to get them on soon. So did you notice like getting better and better in your first shows, getting more comfortable, with how you're going to do your show and how you feel like you're presenting yourself? Did you see lots of growth early on?
Somewhat. Like I still, I'm not always super confident, and I always feel nervous before I do an interview when I hit record. But I'm trying to improve in little ways. Whenever I do my own episodes, I'm trying to follow more of a script, and I'm trying to do a little bit better with editing, because I found some of my earlier episodes, I would have gone off the cuff and I would have read long quotes, and some of them might have been just a little bit long-winded. So I'm trying to be a little bit more concise. And I feel like that's going better because I want to be quite thorough in my episodes and representing this is what the critics have to say. This is their arguments. This is what apologists have to say. And some topics, there can be a lot of research in it. So I feel like that's gone better, where I try to follow more of a script, try to be a little bit more concise so I'm not waffling or repeating myself. And you can also edit if you make mistakes.
That's right. My first interview was with Gustavo Hernandez.
Yep, and I'm good friends with Gustavo.
He's in Mexico City, I believe.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
And I think he identified himself as the Mexican Mormonism with the Murph.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was the first person to interview him. He reached out to me because I think he watched my interview on Saints Unscripted where I talked about my story. And there are some similarities in both of our stories and faith journeys. And he reached out to me, and then I said if he would like to come on to share his story and faith journey, he'd be more than welcome. So I interviewed him, I think it was back in maybe April or May. And then after that, he sort of wanted to do his own channel, particularly for Spanish speaking, because he felt that there wasn't any good podcasts or YouTube channels specifically for Spanish speaking members of the church. So,
and I remember Steve Pinecker of Mormon Book Reviews interviewed him early on as well to try to help him get more views.
Yes,
So
yes.
you and Steve, kind of the bookend Steves, kind of interviewed Eduardo in the
Yeah,
beginning to
really
help him
helped
get
promote
going.
him.
And I think he went from like 12 subscribers to 70 subscribers in like 3 or 4 days.
That's
And so
awesome.
that was good for him.
Yeah, he's doing
And
good work. He's doing some good interviews, and his channel's doing well. So hopefully it will keep growing.
he's such a nice guy. And for doing his show pretty early on, he seemed like really calm and professional. And
Yeah.
I was impressed with him.
And he's
I
speaking
think,
another language. The
yeah,
English is a second language. That's pretty his English is better than mine, and this is my first language.
that's right. And so anyhow, it's been nice to get to know you. Is there anything on the horizon projects that you have coming up?
So I finished my Book of Mormon series, which was a really long series, much longer than what I expected. So I'm going to move on to maybe some different church history topics. So exploring, for example, like priesthood restoration, changes made to the Doctrine and Covenants, Joseph Smith's prophecies. I've got interviews with different guests. Hoping to move on to maybe things like the Book of Abraham and the Temple endowments, Freemasonry, those sorts of topics. I've also thought about in the next year or so, maybe doing a specific series with regards to the CS ladder, giving, what would be my response to the CS ladder, or a panel discussion, responding and engaging with the LDS discussions series, and try to do it in a way that's thoughtful, that's not divisive or trying to create the us versus them, but to try to engage with it, to try to, and there's been multiple responses given, but I feel like that's something that maybe I could try to do as well, and with the research I'm doing. So
Hmm.
maybe some of those things are in the future.
Any plans on going on Mormon Stories someday?
So I did reach out to John right before I started my channel. It was just with regards to questions and certain topics that I would like to have seen him cover, or him and Mike on LDS discussions. And they did invite me to go on, and nothing's really happened yet. But if they want to have me on, I'd be willing to go on. It wouldn't be necessarily for me to try to convince other people that you must follow the same path as I have, but
Right.
I think it could be good for people to hear the stories and perspectives of those people who maybe they went through a faith crisis, but they came back. Because I've listened to lots of different stories of people who've gone through a faith crisis, have left the church, issues with church history or church truth claims, or felt harmed by the church, and I've listened and have a lot of understanding and empathy to those people. I too went through a faith crisis and left, so I feel like I understand and validate their experience, and I
Right.
think I think we need to be more understanding towards those people who have a different experience or come to a different conclusion, and we don't necessarily have to agree, but that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. And I had an interview with Gustavo, and I shared it on my channel. And there are some people who left really kind messages, even ex-members who are like, Murph, I don't come to the same conclusion as you, but I can tell that you're very sincere and heartfelt, and I respect the decision you've made. And I think if we just have more dialogue and more understanding, that will help to build bridges. I think in many ways, because the reality is more people are going to leave the church. It's happened with my family, with my friends, and we have to be able to still get along and talk to each other. And it's healing for relationships if we can, I think, put down our weapons of war and just listen to each other. And I think that's a good thing, rather than trying to prove the other person right, or trying to convince them to come to my side.
Here is your
Um,
room.
oh, sorry, I don't know what that was. Um, so yeah, I think we have to get better at having civil discussions, and that's something I'm not always perfect at, but I try to do that on my channel with the different guests that I have. I want to be respectful. I also want to understand and listen to their perspective at times, maybe push back and challenge. But I think it's important to yeah, respect other people's positions and their story as well. So if they invited me on, I've told them I'd be willing to go on. So maybe it will happen one day.
I've had a handful of people say that early on they talked to John about going on the show, and he was open to it, and then John just gets busy and things happen. So we'll see if you can get on soon. Do you have a Patreon, or are you getting donations? Do you get money sometimes that way too?
So in the past month, people have been really generous with donations. I did put out a wee video just saying to people that I may not be able to continue this, at least at the rate I have been, because over this past year and few months, I've been producing probably 2 videos a week, which is a lot, especially because if you watch some of my videos, I do try to put in a lot of research and information. So long term, working full time, trying to balance time with family and friends, I said that I may not be able to continue it at the rate I am without maybe some financial support. And this past month, I have received quite a few generous donations via PayPal or Patreon. I'm very grateful to those people who have done that. It shows that they value the work that I'm doing, and it's sort of given me motivation to keep going as well. And it really means a lot, that people appreciate. And even a couple of ex-members who have donated, who appreciate what I'm doing, even if they may come to a different conclusion, they appreciate maybe more of a fair and balanced approach in having these discussions and conversations and these topics. So it's been brilliant.
That's right. A lot of podcasts that are just starting out, or even John DeLynn still says, it's donations that help, keep, the wheels turning, help, pay the people that are supporting, help,
Yeah,
get the word out.
it's kind of the
And
reality.
so,
'Cause there's just a lot of time that goes into it. And I've had more understanding as to maybe why podcasters ask for donations, because yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into the preparation, the research, making slides, scripting, filming, editing, uploading, and then trying to interact with people. It's a lot more time consuming than what I expected it to be. So you need to pay your bills.
that's right. Well, thanks, Stephen, for coming on the show. I've grown to appreciate all the things that you do. I think you're a
Thanks,
great
Shane.
guy, and I want all our viewers to, watch your channel and to like and subscribe. And if anyone's hearing our show for the first time, do the same, like and subscribe. And we have a tip jar at the bottom, and hoping that people can continue to support and we can keep the channels going. And thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on. I think it's really great, the work that you and Maven are doing, promoting different channels. And like we talked about before, there's different voices, and it's good for people to be aware of the different voices and approaches that are out there. Some people might appreciate my approach being maybe a little bit more fair and balanced in the middle, looking at both sides on different topics. And the interviews I do may not be for everyone, but I think it's good for people to be aware and to hear the different voices.
That's right. Thanks everyone for listening to Ladder Daily Digest, and talk to you later. Bye bye.